What's up, George? Who do we have on today?
Today on the show, we will be talking to Mr. John Ottinger, and his book is Dweores. I believe we're going to have to find that out. We're going to have to make sure that it is, and we're going to be talking about cultivating fan bases.
Yes, it's the cult of personality. Peace.
We are the only show for independents all around, giving you a platform to spread your word all over town. Catch the Craze is the place to promote to your fans with the Dreamer, Medina, and Sam the Crazy Man. Subscribe to our show and never miss an episode. It's time to get your mans, listen to us on the go. Updated every week, we've never missed a day. Join the squad, come on in. It's time to catch the craze. If you are an independent, catch the craze. Making moves on your own, catch the craze. On your grind in the streets, catch the craze. Join the movement, catch the craze.
Yeah, George, we did it again. Come on now. You know you want to do it. Catch the craze. Welcome to Catch the Craze podcast. I am your host with the most, Sam the Crazy Man Vera, and I am with
George the Dreamer Medina. What's happening? What's going on, Sam?
I was trying to think if that song went with his beat. Anyway, so we have our guest just hit me up. It might be running a few minutes late because he's on a Zoom call with his boss, and it's running a little longer than before.
We all have that, the 9 to 5. Well, Sam used to have.
This is my 9 to 5. This is my 7 a.m. to midnight. This is not
9 to 5. This is 24/7.
This is 7 a.m. to midnight. It's nonstop. I feel like a whore. And
welcome everyone to another episode of Catch the Craze. It is June 25th, and our guest today, like Sam said, is running a little late, but it's John Ottinger. We got to find out how he pronounces this.
I know it's an interesting little problem to have.
Very, very.
But today's an important day.
Today's an important day. You want to go into indie news?
Today is a really important day.
Let's just do it.
In other news, today is the official launch day of Forbidden on Kickstarter. Wow, George didn't even know that.
It's here already.
It's here.
See, because we normally do them on Thursdays.
Yes.
Do them on Thursdays.
So you should be backing. Number one, couple things. We would have been live already. So this is the evening show. We had the live show, and hopefully everybody that's been following the page is backed and helping to make today, the official launch day, very successful.
Okay. All right. Yeah, no, there it is. So that's what's happening in indie news.
What's happening?
Forbidden. Day, I guess 1.5.
Yeah, no Spanish editions. It's just the English version. Nobody plays for the Spanish editions on the first issue, so.
That's
no
why
Spanish
we can't
edition.
have nice things. This is why we can't have nice things.
If you don't want it, I don't make it. If you want it, I make it. It's that simple, man. You give me money, I give you honey.
There it is. That's exactly what it is. You give me money, I give you honey.
There you go.
Yeah, said Sam Vera. So make sure you get some honey. Put some money down on the Kickstarter. Let's see how we do, because we made the goal on Indiegogo. Let's make the goal on Kickstarter. Let's kill the goal on Kickstarter. We only got to one stretch goal on Indiegogo. Let's try to get to like 4, 5, 6 stretch goals. So that's the goal for this one, everybody. So make sure that you are on Kickstarter, log it on. There will be a link down below. Make sure you click it, make sure you support, and also make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you subscribe to this channel and hit the like button, and comment, and do all of that stuff. But definitely, Forbidden is what's going on right now. So for the next few weeks, That's all you're going to be hearing. We're going to tell you right now.
Every day,
That's all you're gonna be-
you're
So
hustling.
do not turn your dial. Do not do any of that.
No,
This is going to be forbidden all day.
because if you change the channel, I will be
sweet.
outside your window.
He'll be on the other channel. You just change it to.
It's like,
That's just how
who's
it
that
goes.
looking in my window? Pow. Nobody
That's right.
now. Remember that? You don't remember that song?
Right. No.
You don't remember it?
That's no. Who's that?
Was that
Time to Google.
Yeah, I know. I gotta find out. I gotta
Google.
Google that.
Well, while you do that, this will be a perfect.
Oh, great
time to
and
tell
powerful
everybody-
Google.
Oh, wow. Yeah, great and powerful Google. Next week is our live show, which is going to kick off the month of July's show. So you will be hearing more about Forbidden next week. But remember, get on there and make sure you pledge. But next week, we're going to be live for our July show. And
The Goody Mob.
The Goody Mob. And so, yeah, make sure that you do that. Subscribe to the channel. Show us some love and listen to our banter back and forth between Sammy and I.
Right. Set it off
Which
on
I'm sure
the
you're probably
left.
tired by
Yo,
now.
nobody's ever tired of my banner. They're like,
Nah,
they go, he's so
your
funny.
banter. Oh, wow. He's so funny.
So crazy.
Sam, tell me what's in this Forbidden version Kickstarter. What do we have going on?
First of all,
Tell us
it's
what's on this
27
thing.
pages of art.
27.
27.
Ooh, you
So,
went in.
yes, I went in. Remember, the first one was 16 pages. This is 27 pages of story and fantastic art by Anibal Arroyos Compoyos, the talented artist behind the book. And it pops off. So, for those of you that backed it on Indiegogo, and I'm hoping that you're here on Kickstarter with me,
Yes.
if you thought that it was intense, that first one, the drama just goes crazy. We introduce several new characters. We introduced Viejo.
Yahoo!
We introduced David Hunter.
Damn, I forgot that Viejo was introduced in this book.
Yeah, we
For some reason, I
introduced.
thought it was already introduced.
Yeah, we introduced several characters. So it pops off. It gets real. It gets real.
That's right.
In
That's
this issue.
right. So you know what? Okay. So that's interesting. So it's popping off. We're trying to build the fan base for Forbidden. Why don't we go to Get Your Meds and talk a little bit more about that?
Oh my God, get your menacing man.
It's time for your medicine.
Cultivating a fan base.
Our fan base, cultivating, which is what we're doing with Forbidden right
Yes.
now. We're cultivating it because it died off because you were away, you didn't take care of that, and
Right.
now we got to cultivate it again. So here we are. So how do we cultivate a fan base, Sam? What are the ingredients? What do we do? How do we do it?
An award-winning smile. I know, right? An adorable puppy.
Giving people, offering honey to people. Is that how you're doing it?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, number one, they have to like your product, but most importantly, they have to like you. And I think if they enjoy your product and you, sometimes they'll make a pass for a jerk because they really want the book. Because there's a lot of mainstream artists out there that I was really a fan of the work, but they were just assholes. Right? You know, so but I think the biggest thing is you have to form a relationship, establish a relationship. And most of the time people might not even be interested in your product, but they're really interested in you and want to see you do well, and they want to invest in you. So I think it's likability, consistency, communication, and quality. I think if you have those four elements, you're going to slowly build a loyal following. As long as you're consistent in, you can't just put something out once a year because people will forget. So as long as you're consistent with what you're doing, they will follow you.
I think that with social networks as big as they are now, and this is the way it is, I think it's important to be a presence. As much as you may hate it, as much as you may be against it, you may say, what is this? This is ridiculous. Right now, you have to have, it's almost like a must have. You have to have an Instagram. You have to have a Facebook. I know you may feel like you're too old for this, but you may have to have a Snapchat. You may have to have a TikTok.
I don't even understand Snapchat.
Yeah,
and that's the problem.
It depends on because it depends on the demographic that you're trying to cater to, right? So if you're doing kids books like Wonder Duck, I need to be on like where the younger audience is. So I think it's part of part of that is stepping outside of your comfort zone. As an old cat, you don't want to do that, right? You don't want to have all these social networks.
I can't relate.
Other stuff.
I can't relate.
Right? Yeah, you can't. So you have to have your thing. I mean, you're on TikTok, so you know the deal.
TikTok is tripping. TikTok's tripping. The stuff that they let go, they banned. TikTok removed my video of the crazy man. Because they said because it violated the drug and alcohol policy.
Wow.
The crazy man. For the crazies, a comic book character.
What they think?
They just saw the afro, the hippie, the dancing, and they said drugs, and they shut it down. It's crazy. Wow. That's crazy. But it had like the first couple of days, it had like 1,000 views. And like. I forgot how many likes, and people was like, "Yo, this needs to go viral or whatever." Then all of a sudden, it got shut down. Wow! And I'm like, what? And so I went back and looked at the video. I said, he's just dancing." I was like, "Yo!" But what are you gonna? But again, they have these algorithms in there, and they. But yes, I think you have to be visible, which is very exhausting. I mean, there are days where I'm just tired. But you have to be consistent and visible. I think I haven't posted anything in 2 days, other than me posting the guest that's on Catch the Craze. Like I had to take a break because I love what I do, but when you're on social media and you're spread out in all these different platforms, and you're part of all these communities, you to post on every single one, that's going to take at least a good half hour just copying and reposting on these different places. And the great thing about technology is that I can just copy something on my computer and paste it on my phone because everything's connected to the cloud. So it automatically captures that. But I think to build an audience, you have to communicate with them. You have to deliver on their expectations. If you're saying that you're going to do something, make sure you do it, and then follow up. Yeah,
I think engaging with your fan base is very important.
Yeah,
and going back to the whole social network, when you're posting stuff on social media, and somebody comments or somebody likes, you should probably respond to that comment. You should probably, at least hit a like or something, unless it's something derogatory and unnecessary. And then at that point, you have the power to just delete it, right? But if it's something encouraging or it's something, a question or something like that, I think it's important that we don't, who the hell are we? You definitely want to engage. You want to engage with that fan and say, hey, whatever it is.
Yes.
So I think that's important. Engagement is important. I think, like you said, posting, just getting the word out. I think getting the word out is very important. And, back in the days, cultivating a fan base, it used to mean, and for a lot of comic book, we were talking about a convention a few months back, a panel that I enjoyed at a convention, and it was because they were giving me free stuff. Like they were just giving me free comics. Now we are not. We don't have the means to be printing out free comic books and giving it to them, but whether it's a PDF or whatever, just a free PDF just for enjoying the show. Just for watching the show, just because. I think that's important. A lot of free stuff is important, especially on your websites or whatever it is, because you want that. You want the traffic to the websites too.
Yep. So
they know who you are. So there's a few things that you have to do to cultivate.
Yeah, when you're at a convention, it's personal. When you're behind a computer, it's impersonal. It's different. So you have to work twice as hard when you're behind a computer because the nuances, sometimes the message might not be delivered the same way as if you were in person. Things could be taken out of context when you're writing something versus then when you see someone face to face, because they can pick up on your energy, on your mannerisms, on the look in your eyes. So it's very different. So you have to work twice as hard with all these tools that everybody's using, and everyone's trying to do the same thing. So what I've figured out is, I think, is cultivate a brotherhood in the community, and work together to help your fellow indies while you're trying to lay the groundwork with your brand and your product to get to the consumer and build that fan base. So I think, because it's almost like rap. Rap fans are finicky. They just move on to the next best thing, right? You're hot for a minute, and then they move on to somebody else. They move on to, it's really not loyal. And in comics now, because there's so much of it, and it's getting that much more competitive. How are you going to make sure someone remembers you? How are you going to make sure someone wants to come back to you? And I think it's that consistency and the communication and the work, the hard work that you put into it. Hard work will pay off. Sometimes it feels like it's forever. Yeah. But I think you just have to, if you chose this, stick to it. Don't make excuses for it, and have fun. Because if you don't look like you're having fun, no one's going to want to be around you. And I think that's the biggest thing. If you like you're miserable and you just paid to be at a table at a Comic-Con, but you have your head down and you're already exhausted because you had to lug all this stuff already, and you're worried about having to make the money, you're not going to be in the game, and you're not going to be able to, people are not going to be able to connect with you because you're already on that wrong footing. I think you gotta find a way to shake it off and walk in the room and find a way to smile. A perfect example is, I remember when I went to another country to train with another team out there, and I was the only foreigner there. And it's an established team, senior level executives. And I remember going into a room and full of attorneys. And there's one attorney comes in the room, female, and she sits right next to me. And they're all talking, and she looks at me. She goes, "And who the hell are you?" And I go, "I'm Batman." The whole room just broke out laughing. That was the only thing I could think of. Right? Nice. So now, because I have anxiety. I'm in a whole different country. I know that I'm being assessed, and feedback's going back to the U.S. about what am I doing? How am I gauging? How am I communicating? Am I taking notes? All those things. So all those anxieties come into play. And the only thing I could think of was, I'm Batman. And the whole room broke out laughing, and she says, "You're gonna do just fine here." And from that moment on, I was likable. I was relatable. I wasn't just that person from America that's a stickler and has a stick stuck up their rear and snobby and all that other stuff. They're like, "Oh, this guy's cool." Right, so you gotta find a way to get that cool factor with the people that you're trying to connect with.
And I think it's got to be genuine, right? So
yes.
it can't be fake. You can't be faking it. You can't be this guy, in front of the camera, be somebody else behind closed doors. I mean, I guess behind closed doors, I'm a poop. I guess you can, but don't get caught out there like that, because your fan base, is going to be like, "Wait, this guy's a complete fraud."
He's crazy,
But I think also you have to make it fun to be your fan. Right. And that goes into what I was talking about, whether it's freebies or whatever it is, or we do raffles, we do a lot of raffles. And I think that we find that when we do our live shows, for example, we get a lot of that community that comes in and they just want to chat. They just want to BS, and we spotlight something, the comments, whatever it is, just to build that fan base, that yes. community in a sense. But I think making sure that it's fun to be a part of it is very important.
Word. Very important.
And what's also important, and I know this may be, it can go either way. Some people think they need it, some people think they don't. But I think a website, to me, is still something that is needed.
Yes.
Just somewhere where people can find everything you're doing in one spot.
Yes.
Because yes, while social networks are big and everybody's on them, sometimes people just want to be able to go to a .com and say, okay, what else does this guy have in there? I don't want to go to Twitter, and then I got to jump over to his Facebook, and then I got to jump over to his, Instagram, and I got to go to his TikTok, what's going on his website? And so I think a website is a great way to have that one-stop shop, in a sense, because then at that point you can also have your store on your website. So if you want to buy something, which a lot of these social networks are doing now, you can swipe up and you can just buy whatever it is you want to buy from that particular person. But I think a website is also important, and it helps you do that.
Yes.
And make sure that it's easy for the phone. You can use it on the phone. That is smartphone friendly. Your website should be smartphone friendly, because guess what? We're always on our phones. So you definitely want to make sure that whatever website you have is not something that, oh man, this thing sucks on a phone, I have to get on my computer.
Yeah.
So I think that's important.
Yes. Yeah, my dog just pooted it. He laid out.
Nice.
He oof.
Wow.
And I inhaled it with my mouth. Man, he's sitting on my lap and he just released the most obnoxious odor. It's like, I can smell it. I can smell it. It's horrible. It's horrible. What did you eat? Anyway, he's so fucking bastard. He went right in my mouth. Yo, smells have a taste. You ever noticed?
Yeah.
It's crazy. It have a taste. It was like, it's like anyway.
Wow.
Oh, that's awesome. Yes, I agree. I think you just have to be true to you. Don't try to be anything other than you. But if comics is what you love, then people need to be able to see that. Bottom line, I think my goal is I don't want administrative work. I don't want a publishing company. I just want to create, and so but I have to do that. So there are days where I'm grumpy because I'm doing all this administrative work. Like today was all administration, and barely any creativity. So, but you have to, when you're on stage and when you're connecting with the audience, which is, your gatekeepers, you make sure that you're connecting with them.
Yeah. No, I think part of and talking about you were saying having a bad day. It's weird because yes, you may have a bad day or I may have a bad day, but the show is kind of like the escape, right? This is where we come in and we're here to have fun. We're here to just chat and BS, because there is a lot of work that goes behind this thing. I mean, Sam's constantly working on stuff like that, and so there is a lot of behind the scenes stuff. And I think part of that is, and I think part of it, what the appeal for me anyway in doing this is that we get to tell people a little bit of the behind the scenes stuff that we do sometimes. We obviously don't record these shows, on the moment every day. We pre-record them and then we air them later, but we air them so far in advance that it's become a joke where we're just going into different time continuums, and then we're okay, we're in the past but we're recording for the future, and but we're recording in the present. It happens all the time.
It's ridiculous.
But again, the fan base thing, it's all about letting you guys in on our little secret, so that you feel included. Because I think part of it is to be exclusive, but not too exclusive. Have stuff that only our fans can get, but if you are a fan, you can get it too. So we're including everybody while being exclusive to what we do.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's no exact science, and we're still learning it, but I think that it's something that we're working in.
It's hard. It's difficult. I mean, when we first came up in the game, when we were youngins on the block, we were having fun and we were building. We just didn't realize what we had. You know what I mean? We didn't realize what we had with the fan base. We didn't realize what we had with the podcast. We didn't realize all that stuff, and there were so many people that just came back for more of what we were producing, and then a lot of them just hung out at the table, just long conversations. Now, I'm doing sketchbooks, sketch covers. Anibel's doing sketch covers, and we're talking to people, and people are buying the books, but we're still having conversation, and everyone wanted to have a conversation. It was like a party, and I missed that. I missed that party atmosphere. I missed that energy, and we just didn't realize that what we had at the time. When you think about all those people that just came around because they liked the craze, they liked the guys at Crazy. You know what I mean? They were like, I want to go and talk to George. I want to talk to anybody. I want to talk to Sam. To Jonathan, and that's what it's about. It's about you. Your byproduct is an extension of you. Your comic book is an extension of you. But at the end of the day, people are buying into you. And I think you have to make sure that's precious. Because they have options.
I think what you also need to do to build a fan base and to cultivate a fan base is to collaborate with others. So what I mean by that is, this is Catch the Craze, but we've had the guys from the Nerds of the Round of the show, and we've been on their show. And so if you're a fan of our show and you're watching their show, you're likely to go over there and say, oh, these guys are cool too. And boom, they become a fan of that. So I think collaborations are very important, especially with what we do. Well, we were doing a show, so we can be on another person's show. Michael Gracia is another one that we do that with.
JD Calderon.
JD Calderon. Absolutely. Mark Torres.
Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. Mark hit me up when I was doing when I did Kids Comic Con, and he's like, "Yo, you want to be on the show? I heard you coming back." And I was like, "Yeah." And so he gave me my first return of the Mac, to the indie world, So, but we built that relationship, What was it called before his radio show? Was it always?
I thought it was always. It came from the radio.
No, it was something else. Yeah, but yeah. So, but again, it's that. Those are the things you can't replace. I mean, time on this planet is precious. Nothing's guaranteed. Everyone's fighting to everybody wants attention. Everybody believes that what they're creating is the next best thing. Right. And everything is just a matter of opinion. Create from the heart and have fun. That's all I can say.
Yeah. The other thing that you want to keep in mind when you're building this fan base also is that you are your own public relations. So you want to make sure that, whatever it is that you're doing or whatever it is, the views that you have, we're in a public forum, and we talk about whether it's an independent artist, whether it's comics, whatever it is, that's what we're talking about. We're not discussing the political state of the country or anything of that nature. So we stay clear of that stuff because, I always heard you don't discuss religion, you don't discuss politics.
Nope.
Right? Because everybody's going to have an opinion about each. Now, if that's what your show's about, then you better be discussing that.
Do your thing, baby.
And you better know what you're talking about.
You better know.
We're not talking about that. So I think PR is very important when you're creating a fan base as well.
Yeah, I love Puerto Rico.
Yeah, me too. Actually, it's a very nice place.
I've only been there once.
You do definitely. No, really?
Only once, yeah.
You've only been to Puerto Rico one time.
One time. One time in my life.
And was it by mistake or did you mean to go there?
No, we went. I went. It was. I went with my wife, my brother, his partner, and it was a great time. We were there for a week. We stood on the outskirts of Puerto Rico at a 5-star hotel, but then we went into Ponce and San Juan, to eat, and we would always stop on the road to these little spots because the food was always amazing. But damn, I went out there fit, and I came back with a little roll on my belly because I was eating. But
nice.
Yeah, it was fun. We had a great time. It was the first time I've ever went on vacation with my brother.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so crazy experience. But again, making connections. I made a connection on the plane, so they moved us up to the exit row because I was 6'2", and the woman's like, you know what? No one bought the exit row. Would you like to come and sit there? I was like, oh, suck it now. Then when we get to the hotel, I went to go check us in, and me and my wife was at the in the lobby, and I went to go check us in, and the girl upgraded me to a suite. When we walked in, it was huge.
Yeah.
It was this humongous suite with a kitchen, a dining room, bathroom, bedroom, walk out onto the beach. Oh my god! And my brother was annoyed and he was mad, so he tried to get upgraded and they wouldn't do it. So he found something wrong with his room, so they moved to a different room. He found something wrong with that room, then they finally gave him a suite.
Nice.
He was mad, but again, you're polite. I walked with a smile. Hey, how are you? Blah blah. I'm excited. It's first time in Puerto Rico. I was like a kid in a candy store, and so when people feel that energy, it's infectious.
Yeah. No, yeah, definitely. You definitely want to do that especially when you're trying to build a fan base. But again, genuine. It's about being genuine. It's not about being this faker with a smile on your face when you hate the world.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah, you can't do that. You can't do that. You definitely.
I always say too. It was one of the things that when I was in the business world, I used to say to my team, I would, one of the things I said, look, what do you do when you're on your way to work? You just got your hair did yesterday, and you're on your way to work, and a bird poops in your head. And they look at me. It's a true question. They always ask do an interview process too. And it's like, there are going to be days where you're going to be walking to work and that bus just splashes water on you. And you got to you're going to curse and you're going to be pissed, but you got to find a way to shake it off and not bring that energy into the work, because you're responsible for a population of people that are hanging on your every word and your mood. So if you don't want to be bothered, then people are not going to be able to talk to you if they have a concern or have a question or they're confused about something. No one's going to want to tell you that a customer needs help and ask you for a manager because I don't know, that manager doesn't look at, so you have to be able to change your face. When I went out to Austria, when I went into that first meeting with the whole team, I'm new to the company, I'm new to this country, I was shitting bricks. But I said, you know what? I'm going to find a way to break the ice for myself. And I'll give you a perfect story. I worked for a lot of different companies, and seldom, practically never, did you ever have a seat with the CEO, right? And you had to be at senior level in order to get that. So I remember joining an organization, and I got an invite. I got an email invite from the CEO. This is a few weeks in. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was a trick. I was like, yo, what's up with this? And it's like, I want to be able to talk to you. It's confidential. And it could be as confidential as you want, as candid as you want, blah, blah, blah. But I'd love to pick your brain on what you think we should start doing, stop doing, and continue doing. Now, mind you, I've only been here for 6 weeks. There's no way I'm going to be able to answer any of those questions. Give me a year. Let me get some, let me learn the players. Let me trial and error, make mistakes, figure out, what the challenges are, understand the culture. So I'm like, why didn't my boss tell me? Why am I getting this from the CEO? Why did he buy bad supports? All that head junk that's going, right? So then my boss finally hits me up about a week later. He goes, hey, did you ever get an email? I said, yeah. He goes, I recommended you. I was like, well, it'd be nice if you told me, because I'm over here like diarrhea in my pants, right? So the whole time I'm like, oh man, what do I say? You're sitting there with the CEO, blah, blah. So I get there half hour early. I thought, I'm sweating. I said, I'm sitting. I go check in with at the reception area, and I sit down thinking I got a half hour to control my breathing and practice breathing exercises, right? And she said, oh, he'll see you now. I was like, what? I got a half hour. I'm early. And I was like, oh shit, right? So the whole time I'm going in there, I'm like, how would I say to this guy? What do I say to this guy? Never mind the fact that when you walk into his office, it's like this 1,200 square feet palace. It's huge, right?
Damn.
He has a home conference table in his room. He has couches and his own bathroom. Oh, it's beautiful layout. Overlooks the city. So he says, have a seat. He's like, he starts to spiel. It's like, this is, conversation, it can be private, whatever you want. I just want to pick your brain, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, I'm a little frustrated. And he says, why? I say, I walked around this entire building and I couldn't find a net. And he's like, why were you looking for a net? I said, to catch the butterflies in my stomach. And so he starts laughing. And he starts, and he starts laughing. And he's like, but that was the only thing I could think of at that moment. And it hit me that moment. to break the ice because I was sweating underneath my suit. I had a suit on. And so he starts laughing and he goes, "That is amazing." And he goes, "Oh, you can do just fine." And we started talking. And the whole time I just started interviewing him. I said, first of all, I'm not the person, I'm not equipped to be able to answer your questions. You have to give me at least a year under my belt to be able to understand you. And I said it exactly like that. I said, but I can tell you what I've learned in the 6 weeks that I've been here about the team that you've allowed me to lead. And I said, well, here's my 30-day, 60-day, 90-day plan based on what I learned about that team and what I can do to grow that group. And then I just started interviewing him. But I found a way to deal with my anxiety instead of shutting down and sitting there going, and instead of bullshitting him, well, I think you need to do this with logistics, and I think you need to do, you're going to come off as an idiot because you don't have that information. I think the best way I deal with anxiety and stress is through humor. And you might think it's corny, but if I get you to laugh,
So your anxiety was because you were meeting the big boss,
the CEO
at the time,
6 weeks into the job. 6 weeks into the job. You know what I mean? I'm like, I could understand if I had an outstanding year.
Yeah.
P&L was great. And we've blown away all the KPIs. And now, it's like, he wants to congratulate. But I'm like, I've only been here 6 weeks. I don't even know who the buyers are. I don't even know, who's on the logistics team. All these things. Why do you want to talk to me? Mm-hmm. And so what I banked on was my personality. How I deal with tense situations is through humor, through smiling. I laugh when I'm stressed. Yeah. And so it might rub people the wrong way. Why are you laughing? This is serious. Yeah, that's why I'm laughing, because it is serious. But I try to lighten the mood that way. So in order for me to lighten the mood, I have to make sure I'm in a relaxed state.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the best way to do that for me is through humor.
Yeah, no, I got you.
And I always say that if I can get the person that I'm dealing with in front of me to smile or laugh, then the rest of the day is going to be good. But if you're not smiling once, it's going to be painful. It's going to be painful.
Yeah,
but again, it's about, and the reason why we hit it off, and he had me on speed dial, had my phone number. I handled a lot of big projects for them because they trusted me. It started from that first moment, that first meeting where he's like, I like this guy. You know what I mean? So I want to see what he can do.
That's big. Yeah, that's big. I think people liking you. It's very. A lot of people say, it's not what you know, it's who you know, and I think that's very true because word of mouth is a very important thing. And if somebody likes you and if somebody's willing to vouch for you, that's bigger than any resume and things you have done and you have accomplished. Yeah, I mean, within reason, I suppose. I mean, you don't want somebody who's just nice to work on your brain as a brain surgeon. You know what I mean? You want somebody who knows what they're doing. But,
and I think that's the biggest thing. I remember inheriting teams where, they you get a hit list. Get rid of this person, get rid of that person. And then when I dig in, I'm like, well, why would I want to get rid of this person? This person's talented. This person is going to help me get to the goal that I want to get to. So I would step up. Nah, I'm not going to do that. Sometimes it put me in a bad situation. But again, it's about character. It's about, you have to have the skill set, but it's also about character, and I think, people, if they feel that you're likable and trustworthy, they're gonna support you. But if they don't feel that you're either the two, you're on your own. Yeah.
No, it's true. It's true. And cultivating anything, I guess a relationship, a friendship, a fan base, you pretty much need to have all of those things. And I think part of it too is communication. You mentioned, and I don't know when it was. I don't know if it was this show or a future show that we will be recording, where you were. I think it is a future show, where you had pledged to a Kickstarter and nothing had been delivered to you. And I think that's a way to lose that person.
Yep.
Lost me. The only possible way maybe that you may be able to get that person back is if you add something to that pledge. You know what I mean? When you get your reward that you were pledged for, if you have an extra copy of something else that they were working on, maybe that'll entice you to come back and say, okay, let's give these guys another shot. But I think that that's part of it too. It's communication, because if you are going to be, not going to show up or be running late or something's happened to your product, you need to communicate that to your fan base and let them know this is what's happening. This is why this can't be done right now.
Perfect example is, Omar Solis. Right?
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Big supporter of the craze from the beginning. And so twice I shipped out his rewards and twice it was sent back to me. And we ate the shipping each time, right? And so I'm like, so now George hand delivered it. But we also threw in an extra another issue of the second Kickstarter.
Which he didn't pledge to.
He didn't pledge to.
He had every right not to.
Right.
He had every right not to because he never got the first one.
Right, as a thank you. And also we recognize the frustration. I was frustrated because it kept sending back to me. I can imagine how he frustrated. It's like, yo, I backed this. So
I paid money for this.
Yeah, so we threw in, we also ate the loss both times on the shipping, but we said, you know what? It's worth giving him an extra copy and giving him what he would have gotten if he would have gotten it the first time. As a way of saying we're sorry that there was such a delay. We're sorry that there was a mishap with the shipping, but here, and we appreciate you. And I think, and he texted me today, so I think that was pretty cool. And
the funny thing is he texted you today, but he didn't even have your number, so he contacted me to get your number just to text you personally. I mean, that's the kind of guy he is. Omar Zoli, he's a great guy. For anybody who's watching this, he's actually got a channel called Digital Villains, so check that out on YouTube because he does a lot of great editing for video editing.
Really cool guy. Him and his brother.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Both of them are talented. I remember I went to.
His brother George was writing for Newsweek magazine.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I remember when he was writing for
Fangoria.
Yes, Fangoria. It was a horror book. Yeah, a magazine.
Yeah. So he's doing his thing, man. He's doing his thing.
Yeah.
And also and quickly, just a quick plug for Omar, superhero.fightclub on Instagram. Follow that. It's actually a store where he sells licensed t-shirts. Superherofightclub.com. He sells licensed t-shirts. He just started that venture. He's always doing something. He's amazing. He's amazing. But yeah, definitely check that out. But the fan base and see, this is what it is. So right now, for example, Omar, right? Great guy. We're talking about him. I just plugged his website. Whoever's watching this, if they want some t-shirts, they may just go there and get it. But that's word of mouth. Yeah. That's because he is the guy he is. We want to push that. Yeah. And that's what it is. That's what it's about. That's exactly what it's about. Exactly. Perfect example of what it's about. Yeah. When you do good, you get good. I think to keep it simple and but definitely try to make sure that whatever it is you're doing it from the heart. And like you said, like Sam said, make sure it's good quality, right? And what were your 4 criteria that you had, Sam? You said good quality.
Yeah, likability, consistency, communication, and quality.
Yep.
He put me on the spot.
Well, I just want to make sure you weren't BSing us.
Put me on the spot and watch me drop shit like the weather. Check out the flow by a smoother type of brother. So anyway,
I feel like that was a song you had back.
It was called Making Moves. We're making moves, y'all. We're making moves, y'all. We're making moves, y'all. That was a song.
That's great. Yeah. But so that is the segment of Catch the Craze. That was an extended segment.
That was an extended segment. That's an extended.
Get your meds. Catch the Craze. Let me see that. Get your meds. Extended segment.
Yes, get your Medina Hayes.
That's right.
Yes. And let me take off this logo. Forbidden logo. And so we're gonna go to commercial and we come back. Hopefully our guests will be in the ready room.
Do you have a Kickstarter campaign and you're trying to figure out how to get the word out? You look online and you see the competition is fierce. Comic-Cons are slowly coming back, but in the meantime, how do you spread the word? You worked for hours creating your campaign. You post on as many social media sites as possible, trying to get the word out to no avail. Well, look no further. Why not sponsor an episode of Cast the Craze Podcast, the fastest growing indie podcast in the market today? That 30-second promo can get you an extra 2 to 3 backers or more. Who knows? Let's go. Hit the link below and get one step closer to a successful campaign.
Here we go.
All right, we are back with our special guest, John Ottinger, and we're excited to have you on the show. What's up, buddy?
Oh man, I'm so excited to be here. I love the vibe of your show. I love the creativity. I love the entrepreneurial flavor and drive you guys have.
Thank you.
You know, I think we're very much a kindred spirit.
Outstanding.
Hey, John, you came highly recommended by Enrique. So he told me he hit me up personally. He said, George, you have to have this man on your show. I was like, you got it. I hit you up, and we made it happen. So that's awesome, man. Thank you for being on the show.
I'm jealous. I'm looking at R2D2 on your shelf. I'm like, man, that's awesome.
So John, for those who are watching right now who don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about who John Ottinger is, and give us that story.
Okay, I'll give you the quick. My dad's an artist, and so our family business growing up is we made mechanical Santas and elves that moved that you see in shopping centers. And we decorated shopping centers across the country. And then we did Universal Studios, all their window displays with their mechanical ETs and Bowinkles and all that type of thing. And Knott's Berry Farm. And so I've been creating worlds my whole life. So like in 9th grade, I would design, in high school, I'd design the presentation boards. I'd design the castles and the workshops and all that. And then once we got the contract, I have to go back in the back and build it. Sculpt the heads of the elves, make the wooden frames, figure out, I could weld and do woodworking, metalworking, mold making. I work with costumers to make the costumes. And so we did all this crazy stuff. And we did it all in a really old building that's built in 1901. Wow. Fully wooden structure, sawtooth roof looking factory. Wow. It was in the middle of the citrus field. And this is where they would process oranges. So this big, and it was filled with bats, and it was just an old rusted out machinery. We couldn't figure out what it did. And so that's how I was raised in that type of environment. And then from there, I went to art school in Pasadena, which was great. I studied illustration. So studied painting and drawing and painting and drawing and painting and drawing, which is my love. I love doing that stuff. And then after college, I started getting into the toy industry. So that's my day job, is I design toys. That's why it's my excuse for having so many toys around me.
I just thought you were a collector. I was like, John, look at all those collectibles he has out there. I didn't realize you worked in the industry.
I would collect toys if I wasn't in the industry. Right. There's just too much fun. So, and it parallels everything I've done my whole life.
So, can you take us back to the juvenile you? When you would watch what your father was doing, and when you got an opportunity to get involved, what was that feeling like? Did you want to get involved? And what were the thoughts going through your head at that time?
I didn't have a choice. I mean, we would have to. He would tell us we have to get this project done by this date, or we don't eat. That's
motivation. That's motivation for you.
Right. So in elementary school, I was doing all-nighters.
Wow.
In the factory. And on installations. We'd also do a lot of stuff at the fairground. So elementary school, do all that. So
that's crazy.
But I have a natural love for, artists are born. I can't help it. That's all I want to do. That's all I think about. is drawing, painting, sculpting, storytelling, creating stuff all the time. I call myself calm hyper. I'm very calm, but I gotta be doing something. I gotta be drawing. When I watch TV, I'm drawing.
Yeah.
Right. And
That's awesome.
That's
John,
awesome.
you have I mean, it's a very interesting background that you have there. Now, I was doing a little research just before we came on. Now, you have kids. Do they also have this artistic bug in them? I think your son might, right?
My son and daughter are both were very creative minds. My son's studying more engineering, and my daughter's studying more the marketing type avenues. But they're incredibly creative, but they're not. They like to draw and do that stuff, but they don't do it all the time. They're not like a zealot like me.
Right.
That's all they do. That's all I want to do.
Well, the reason for bringing them up, John, not that I mean, that was like, wait, what are you bringing? The reason for bringing them up is because I was reading that your son drew some of the maps in some of your books. Is that
Exactly.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, in the front of my comics, I have a map. And when he was in elementary school, I asked him to draw
That's awesome.
the world, because I was hugely inspired by Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
You know how it had that map?
Yeah.
And I still remember when I first read that book, I'm like, that's kind of a crappy map. But as I read the adventure and I followed them through their journey and stuff, that map became incredible, you know, and I loved it. So yeah, my son, he drew the map and he would help me with ideas. Same with my daughter. I started off with a sketchbook and she wrote all the poems and all the verbiage that went inside. So, but now they're in college, so
Right.
they don't have much time to play.
No, but that's so awesome that you talk about you growing up as a kid and you were creative and you did these things with your dad, and then that comes full circle with your kids and what you were doing even in this book. And I don't know if Sam has any more questions about because I'm like excited about this book and I just wanted to ask you about that, but I don't know if Sam has anything else about the background.
Well, yeah, I think for me, you worked for a lot of different organizations. And so what sparked the idea for you to want to go in to create your own world? Because you were somebody on a team and now you want to take your passion into your own hands.
Well, I do a lot of large scale sculptures for the movie companies for their trade show booths. Like before the Harry Potter movies came out, and there was just the books, for Warner Brother hired me to sculpt life-size Haggarth, 8 foot tall.
Wow.
Based off the artwork from the book. And it was also they're photographing. J.K. Rowling's had to approve everything. And I did a Harry Potter. And their entire booth was based off that pre-movie. It hadn't even started. So I got to do a bunch of characters. But what that did, and I've done 12 foot tall Power Rangers and Angry Birds and giant Scooby-Doos and Mojo Jojo from Power. I've done hundreds of large-scale sculptures. After the day job, I would go do those. And so, but that led me to going to the licensing shows where these were used, right? And so at the licensing show, I saw how you can get paid more than one time for a piece of artwork. And I saw the business side of it. And I'm like, wow, this is where there's a lot of opportunity in licensing. Because everything I like, those sculptures and stuff, I would do them all by myself and after work. And so I was pretty wrecked by the end of that. And so I was like, and I got to see the marketing and branding. How can I create something I can license? So I tried a couple other things, and finally I decided I wanted to create my own brand, and I love toy robots. So this is what led into the Dweores. So in my studio, and out in the garage, I have hundreds of toy robots. So how I started is I just sat down and I just stared at them for like an hour, analyzing them. Like, what are these? Why do I like them so much? What attracts people? And by the time I was done looking at them, I'm like, well, these are really just interesting geometrical shapes and colors. I don't have an instant emotional connection to any of these. So I pulled out my pad and I wrote down my brand. First thing, I want instant emotional connection. Right. And then at the time I was listening to NPR and they're talking about how the Asian market's really going to open up in the next 20 years and be a huge player, a huge opportunity. So I'm like, must work in Western culture and Eastern culture. Right. And then I wrote down, I wanted super positive and inspiring for kids and adults. And those were the 3 parameters that I started my brand with. And then I'm like, okay, so I need a robot. And at the time I was taking the train every day and I was sketching in my sketchbook on the train ride to work like I always do. And I'm trying to find what it is. And then I look up and I see this big water tower. And I'm like, that's it. That's the basic shape. It's universal, globally universal shape, recognizable. So I'm like, okay, so that's it. And I go, okay, well, how am I going to get instant emotional connection? So from studying psychology, I know the most powerful icon in the world. Any guesses?
Icon in the world.
What is the most universal, most powerful icon in the world? Super easy, super simple. Once I tell you, I didn't know.
You're gonna say it. I'm like, damn, I knew it.
Superman.
I know. It's smiley face.
The happy face. Yeah, so you got smiley face.
But why?
Because
it's infectious.
What we learned in psychology, why, is this is imprinted in every human on the planet. Responds to a smiley face. So, hope I'm not boring you all this talk.
No, this is what I like to talk about. Like this is like the process, the thought process behind it. So go ahead.
So when a baby's born, they can't focus. They have very short focal range, and your vision develops. The first 6 months, you get more depth. So, and you're seeing more golden light on your cones and rods. So what you're seeing every time you see a smiley face, those eyes and the mouth is your mother looking down at you, holding you and smiling. Powerful.
Right.
Powerful. You don't even think about it. Oh, smiley. No. Why? I always have to know why for everything. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to put a smiley face on a water tower. And that was how I started my brand.
That is awesome.
That is awesome.
With those 3 parameters. Now I have instant emotional connection. I have also universal shape that's used around the planet. And so that's how I started building. This is my thought process. This is how I started building the idea for this project, right?
John, did you build that model there?
No, actually, that one is I have a license deal, and so a factory in China, really, really high quality factory makes those. They come in incredible packaging. I'll show off a little bit.
Show off. Let us see it.
Wow,
this is the packaging. It comes in.
Beautiful.
Bam. The styrofoam inside has the logo embossed in it.
Are these available for sale? Like, can we buy those? Like, if we go on your website or something?
I don't have them on my website, but they're on the factory that has them on eBay.
Okay.
But I mean, look at the paint. The arms are held on.
Oh,
the door magnets.
That's cool, man.
I mean, it's top drawer.
That is nice.
It's crazy, right?
Yes,
That
that's
is
why you're on Catch the
beautiful.
Craze.
That
So,
is
so now
beautiful.
that's I loved your approach to the to creating the brand. How did you give life to your characters?
Well, I started with a sketchbook at first, and then I didn't know I was going to do a comic book. I had zero interest in making a comic book.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I've gone to Comic-Con for well over 20 years, and I would leave with bags and stuff. It's just like, the best place on earth,
Yes,
down
it
in
is.
San Diego.
Yes.
Never dreamed I would have it. And finally, early in the process, I'm like, you know what? I should be on the other side of the table, right? And that was another reason I started my brand, is going to Comic-Con so much and seeing all the magic, and like, I want to create magic for people,
Right.
and make something wonderful. So I read a book in college by the author, I can't think of his name, who wrote The Trouble with Tribbles for the original Star Trek. And he went through his writing process. And that always stuck with me. Because he described it, if I remember correctly, he just got 3x5 cards. And he would just think of incredible scenes or in cool scenes. He goes, oh, Mr. Spock and Dr. McCoy are arguing in the elevator, blah, blah, blah. Then he put in the box. And, oh, Klingons drop out of warp, and they blah, 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 and they blast him. Oh, they're in the dining hall, blah, blah, blah. And then pretty soon in these scenes, and he started rearranging them, and a story would form. He would throw them out, fill it in, and that's how he wrote the script. One of their most famous scripts, The Trouble with Tribbles.
Wow.
And I thought it was a great, simple way to do it. Then you apply it to, the story arc. Then I'm start moving things around for the story arc. And he developed his story that way with incredible scenes. And that's the way I think anyway. Because, starting off, I was very uncomfortable with the writing portion of this.
Yeah.
I'm an idea guy because that's what I do all the day. But growing up, I had tons of learning disabilities, dyslexia and all this stuff. So I couldn't even read. And I didn't read a book until like 9th grade.
Wow.
I had to teach myself to read.
Mm-hmm.
And so I finally cracked through that. And so I've always had a little bit hesitant about that. But that's when you do your best stuff.
Right.
Is when you're in the water up to here and your feet don't touch, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I was. I'm like, I'm completely uncomfortable doing this.
Yeah.
So this is about the right spot for me to be. And so I figured out how to listen to podcasts and radio shows and read tons of books on writing and you've got to learn it all to forget it all. I do, till it becomes part of your DNA. Then you just do it and you don't have to think about it, the story structure and the character development. I mean, it's a never-ending story of learning to figuring it out. But you get better every time.
Yeah.
And you got to go a little deeper in the water every time.
That's true.
Right? That's the fun of it, right?
That is true. Yep, absolutely.
If you're comfortable and whipping out, you need to go a little deeper.
Yeah.
In the water.
You need to push yourself. That's the only way you're going to get better.
You have to push yourself.
Absolutely.
Right.
So John, you started out with an idea. Originally, they were just going to be like these, and that's what the word means, right? Pronounce it again for me.
Dweores?
Dweores. It's Old English for like dwarfs, I think, right? Isn't that what that is?
Right.
So you started with these little creatures, and originally they were just going to be robots. Is that what they were going to be? And then you turned them into a comic. Is that the
right?
Okay.
I was every day on the train. I would just do a new drawing of them, doing something different. And by the end of the year, I had hundreds of drawings.
Jeez.
And so I Xeroxed them. And then the next time I went to Comic-Con, I had them literally stapled together. They'd been in my bag they're all dog-eared, horrible. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to apply. And so I filled out the form and I handed him this ratty, stapled in the middle, no words, just the pictures to try to get in.
Yeah.
And I got a letter back that I got in. And I'm like, oh my God.
Nice.
Now I have to figure out how to make a book and put some words in there. So
That's awesome.
it's just like, again, way out of my comfort zone. So, but I did it. And so I got a little table. I printed essentially a sketchbook with the poems my daughter wrote, which was great. And so I'm at my little table, and some of the first people that came by were someone from Facebook. And I'm like, they go, tell me about these. So I gave them the story of what I was trying to do. So I really like these. He goes, would you make stickers for us for Facebook?
Oh.
And I'm like, yeah, okay. I think I could do that. And then they asked, well, will you do a second one? So what that did is my little characters became global overnight. They literally get used millions of times a day. And I could track the top 50 countries that use them. And I have all the analytics, if it's boy or girl, which characters are trending. So I'm like, wow. And I wanted to make a brand, and I got that. That was my first thing. Wow, that's great.
That is awesome.
So that was awesome. And then a lady from the statue company came by. She said, I've scouted the whole show, and I'm looking for the best thing here, and I think this is it.
Wow.
I'm like, wow, thank you. And she said, would you consider having a contract with us for us to make your statues? I'm like, oh, okay. Okay. So that's how that came about.
Wow.
And then everyone started asking, well, what's the story? And I'm like, I was thinking of it as just an art project when, let people make up their own stories and stuff about these really cool images in their own mind, but everyone can. So I got bullied into making a comic book.
How dare they?
I'll have to figure that out now. I have 20 long boxes of comics in my garage because I'm a huge comic fan.
Yeah.
I never thought I would make one. And so that led me down the journey to figuring out the structure of a comic book, telling the story.
You were here again. Underwater. You were here.
Yeah, one nostril out. I'm like, what? And that was it. And so my dog keeps, Bjorn, what do you do? My dog keeps opening the door, my Rottweiler.
Oh, nice.
And so that's another piece of the story of that. And then what else is cool that I could brag about?
What is that? Go ahead. I was going to ask you about that because I read that they were actually in the Big Bang Theory. How did that happen?
They were on for, I think, the last 3 or 4 seasons in the comic book shop right behind the cash register. The statues I showed you on the shelf. And so I wanted to get some product placement. So I did a bunch of research. I found the person, and then I have a friend who wrote the letter for me and had the contacts to send it in. I didn't. And at that time I was doing one of the sculpture jobs and the full-time job during the day. And then at night, so it was like 11 o'clock at night, I'm in an auto parts store trying to buy some paint for one of the big statues I'm working on. And then I get an email that says, hey, we love this stuff. We have to have it on set at 8 in the morning in downtown LA. And I'm wrecked. I've been sculpting like all night for weeks. And I'm like, I don't see how I can do it. And I'm slammed at work. But I'd had a meeting with someone the week before in LA. And I gave them the statue and my books and stuff. And so I'm like, said, hey, you know all the stuff I gave you? could I have it back? And would you mind delivering it to Warner Brothers for me tomorrow? And he said, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, man.
That is crazy.
He got to so many crazy stories, and so he got to go down. He met Sheldon. He got to deliver my stuff while I was slaving over a statue and designing toys during the day. So that's how that came about.
Oh,
Wow.
that's a great story, man.
Oh, so many. And I only thought of that because I met another guy who had his stuff on the show, a professional wrestler. And he told me about it. And so he said, yeah, send it to me. I'm friends with them and I'll try to get it on. I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm like, that'll never happen. So I had found my own path.
Yeah.
And it took a long time, but I found the path to do it.
Great. That is great.
That's awesome.
And now there's a new Jim Henson show coming out this month.
Oh.
On Discovery Plus. It's a cooking show with Duff. They're starting to promote it. And so it's Jim Henson, kind of steampunk with Duff, the chef,
Yeah.
on it with all these Muppet robots and Muppet characters. And at the end of the kitchen table is my statue.
Nice.
Wow,
That is
that's awesome.
great that you've been able to do this. That's amazing, John. I had a question about your logo. Who designed the logo? Because I thought it was really cool too.
I did. I drew that on the train.
That's
And the story with that is even the name, it's difficult to pronounce and read, right? On purpose.
Right.
When I was a kid, I saw on the Mike Douglas show when I came home back in the day, Arnold Schwarzenegger, when he did his first movie, he was on there and he had a heavy accent, and the host kept telling him, you got to change your name. And he's like, no. And they said, well, why? Because Arnold's a very intelligent guy. He said, it's difficult to learn, but once you know it, you're empowered.
Oh.
And you'll know it forever.
Yeah.
Right? And so remembering that from, I don't know, I was probably in 5th grade, right? But I always remember that to go, so when I did this, I remember that story. I'm going to choose a name that's empowering to people once they learn it. And it starts off a little easier to read, then it gets a little more tangled.
Right. Yeah.
So it's empowering for people, and that's a connection people have to the brand in the know, and they get to explain to people how to pronounce it, and they'll know it instantaneously.
That's great.
Right. So I went the opposite way of instant recognizable billboard type philosophy. This whole project, when I finally decided I'm going to do a comic book, I went to a comic book store and I looked at every comic in the store. I'm like, okay, and I had a good idea what's going on. And I'm a 180 guy. I'm going to do the opposite. Why do I want to look corporate and, like what the corporations are making, even though I love all their work?
Right.
I won't stand out.
Right. Yeah.
It'll just be more the same, but not as good.
Right.
The train drawing, and I drew almost all the first few books on the train. It's very bumpy. And so I had to develop a really loose, energetic style to draw it in that I usually don't work in.
Yeah.
And so that's part of the energy and part of the story and part of the why it's loose. But that being loose is also, it's not intimidating to people. I look at a new Spider-Man comic book and I'm like, damn, I don't know. This is so perfect.
Yeah.
It's all about imperfection.
Yeah, it works though. It works. I think you've nailed it. Like that, what you've done with the book itself. And I was looking through some of the pages on your website. It looks like you said, it's loose and it is fun. It makes you want to read it. And I know you have like 5 issues out now, right? Like I think there's like 5 issues of that thing. Are you gonna like is there like an ending to the story, or is it like an ongoing story? What are you doing with it?
In the next couple of issues, I'm gonna end this little story arc, but then I'm gonna start the next story arc.
Nice.
right? And then I have a spin-off book I'm doing off of this, off characters I haven't introduced. That's really fun project too.
Awesome.
Again, one nostril above the water. It's like, what?
Yeah, there you are again.
I'm a one-man show. I got to put all the text on.
Oh man.
And do every drawing, paint the cover, paste it all up, make all the bubble, the onomatopoeia. I have to draw all that. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, I'm looking at your.
You guys know more than as well as I do.
Yeah, I'm looking at your event setup, and it is so elaborate. I mean, tell me about the thought process behind your set. It looks like a set. It looks like a movie set. Your booth that you had at Comic-Con, and how much time did it take for you to set that up and design it?
Oh, it's always a rush. Well, the concept is I wanted to give a little slice of the world, a glimpse of the world. So I made all that. I did all the painting, I sculpted, I made all the characters. I piled it in my truck. Like, the Beverly Hillbillies look more classy than I do coming down the road with my display in the back. And so I wanted a slice of the world. And so if you see the rock and train they're on, I sliced it. And so you can see the tunnels and the little burrows of the creatures that live below spout levels.
Right.
My comic book has levels. My characters have levels, different ways to interpret it. So that's what I was thinking. I go, okay, so I want to show a vista. I want to appeal to the game and the entertainment people. So I'm going to do a big concept like painting. I've never done one of those before. I did it all in Photoshop and had it printed up big on boards. And the sculpting is similar to like what I do in those jobs. That's all a scrap material on the side of my house. So I was out in the sun, I sketched it out what I wanted, got my concept, and I sketched it all out, and I did it. Everything's by myself.
Jeez. So,
and then even the counter, okay, I want a raw wood counter. I had a pizza box. I cut a stencil out of a Dweores. I sprayed it on the top, and it's part of the handcrafted concept of the Dweores that goes with the books and the characters.
Did you design? It looks like a life-size model of your characters. Did you build those?
Yeah,
everything. Oh, it's beautiful. Jeez. So now you didn't even stop there. So you went, you got the figures, you got the book, but you also did trading cards.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Those were really fun. So I did. I'm trying to make a Dweores game, card game. And so just for fun, I don't know if I have any around. Let's see. I made those little trading cards. I printed them up, and I just gave those out to kids as little promos.
Yeah.
And somebody got me going for a game, right? It got my first step into deeper water. and made trading cards, and they're very affordable to make, to have them done. And so you can do. I thought I had some here. Yes. So these are great, fun promos you can do, and that's the back of the card.
Yeah.
Right. And so
beautifully designed. You did an amazing job designing the template for that. For it, it's just beautiful.
Yeah, I did like 5 or 6 different character cards, and just for fun. Yeah. And they're promos, right?
Yeah.
So now, and so that kind of, I do everything, and I try to make it special.
No, they look great.
Is the goal to inspire people.
Oh, it looks fantastic.
I love DC. I love Marvel, and Image. I've got tons of that stuff. But I wanted something different, a new place for people to imagine and go. Like my favorite superhero, which I consider a superhero, is Snow White and Alice in Wonderland. From them, in this incredible situation, this incredible world, and they got through it by being true to themselves.
Yeah.
Right? They didn't, and so that's kind of the archetype of my main character. And then I put her going through the land of the Dweores, which I love Ninja Turtles and Naruto. So they're kind of like Naruto Ninja Turtle type guys. There's some serious warriors and there's comedy. And each village has its own flavor and level of technology. You know, very tribal, very village-like. You know, living with nature.
Yeah. That's amazing, man. This is so inspiring, John. I gotta tell you,
the story is amazing.
This is, and the way you've thought it out, like how it started, like you were really saying, okay, this is what I want. These are the 3 things I need, and you pulled it. I mean, the first trip to the Comic-Con, these guys are like, hey, we want to make statues of these things, and Facebook, and these are great stories, man. Is this like the dream? This is like what you want, right? Like when you go to these Comic-Cons, that's what you want.
That's what you want, but it's all been baby steps.
Yes.
Yeah.
Baby steps. You know, I'm building a world with Legos in my mind, but it's the little tiny Legos because I don't have that much time. But every day I'm like, I'll put 2 or 3 on.
When did you start this journey? Like, what year did you start the journey of the Dweores?
I think it's 7 years now since I started.
7 years.
And I was doing like 1 book a year.
Yeah.
I'm doing more than that now.
Mm-hmm.
I have an editor now who I work with.
Okay.
And so we went through during the pandemic, we went through my existing material and just tuned it up.
Hmm.
And so my goal is to build a solid block of really fun, interesting work and then see where that takes me.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right.
So you're on book 5, and now did you go through any crowdfunding campaigns to get it printed, or how did you get it out there?
I printed all myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. All digitally printed on really thick, high quality paper.
Yeah, that's great.
You know, the best I can. But now I'm focusing on comicology.
Mm-hmm.
And so it has such a wider reach, global reach, right? So that's what I've been focusing on. So I haven't been printing anything anymore. I'm like, I do my books, I put on comicology, and because that can parallel some of the recognition, because everyone that I show it to, I've seen that someplace before. And I'm like, well, do you Facebook? And they go, yes, right? Or do you watch Big Bang? Yes. Mm-hmm. I've seen those on there.
Nice.
So, some of that. So, anyway, that's my journey so far.
Do you have any plans?
You know how much work it is.
Oh yeah.
It's just on all your guys' books. You guys have long lists of books, and I'm just like, dang.
But that's also years of work as well. I mean, we know, and we know how it is.
Yes. So, are you planning on doing any events this year?
I wanted to do Comic-Con, and I do Comic-Con every year. That's the only show I do. Down in San Diego. I've done it for 4 years or 5 years now. Trying to make it grow and make it better every year. But I don't really hit the circuit. I don't have time.
Right.
It takes too much time making these books.
A lot.
Okay, right?
Yep.
I mean, if you're gonna do a show, you want to do Comic-Con because that's where you're gonna get the greatest exposure. Of all the events.
And you're on the West Coast already, so that's great.
Right. And I really wanted this year's Comic-Con to happen, but it didn't. Because there's such a backlog of movies. And so what that would mean is at the show, there's going to be, tons of the marketing people and scouts at the show. Would have been. Like there have been 4 times as many as the usual. Yeah. So.
I think they announced they were going to do it on Thanksgiving.
I don't know exactly what that is. That's a different show. It's like a different filler show. It's not really the Comic-Con. It's a new show, but I don't really know. I haven't looked into it too much.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, listen, John, I love what you're doing, man. I'm so glad that Kika hit me up and said that we have to speak with you, because this has been amazing, and I can't wait to see what else you do at this point. You know,
We'll have to do a secret video conference, and I can show you some of my new projects. See what you think of it.
I'm down for that. I'm definitely down for that.
Yes.
Get some feedback.
Absolutely. But so where can they find you, John? For people who want to follow the Dweores and order stuff, or can they order stuff? Like, how do we get in contact with you?
Well, to get the stories, I'd like people to go to Comixology. You can get book 0 for 99 cents.
Okay.
And every other book after that's $2.99, and you can get it and download it and have it forever. And you get to enjoy the stories. So that's what I'm trying. There's no cons, there's nothing, so I'm not printing. So that's the best way. And just look for Dweores or my name on social media and follow. I'm horrible at social media, so if you follow me, I really appreciate it.
Well, we're definitely gonna put the links on the video, and we're definitely gonna let you know when it comes up, because this has been great, man.
Yes. I mean, definitely fascinating. You have an amazing story. I mean, it's just fascinating. It's the true, it's the American dream, I guess. It's like the hustle pays off in the long run, and not only that, everything you've done, and for anybody watching, what you've done is you've identified what you felt was going to connect with people. And I think that's why Jim Henson is Jim Henson, and that's why the Muppets go on for generations, because they connected with people on a personal level. And what you're doing here with the fact that you identified that as a key element to your branding, is no wonder why it was so appealing to everybody who passed by and said, you know what, I need to see what that's about.
Check it out.
So congratulations to you.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'm just nothing still. I'm just a little indie guy, but it's opportunity for artists like us. We can do this work and make a book, and we get to stand on the batter's box and possibly take a swing.
Yeah,
they could change our lives.
Yeah,
and so that prospect's fascinating, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you do have to fall in love with the drudgery of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's mostly drudgery.
Yes.
And
the hustle.
The inspiration is a little bit, but everything else is the drudgery, and you need to make peace with that and figure out how to work that.
And the follow through, John, because it's not enough to have an idea. You have to make it a reality. You have to put in the work. You have to draw the pages, right? You have to create this little. So it's all about the follow through as well. And I think that we stop short of that sometimes.
Right. Everyone, if you ask them, would want to do one of these projects.
Yeah.
There's very few of us that are crazy enough.
That's the word. That's the word.
Crazy. Actually do it. Because you have to be absolutely crazy to sacrifice this much time with that much mental energy.
Yes.
That much sacrifice into making one of these little comic books.
You're absolutely right.
You know?
Say it better.
Yeah.
Absolutely right.
Yeah, you guys are definitely kindred spirit brothers.
We're crazy. We're crazy enough to do it.
Me too. We're crazy, but there's bad crazy and good crazy. We're the good crazy.
Yeah, we're the good crazy. Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're inspiring me. I swear. I look at your stuff, and I'm still looking at your portfolio, and I'm on the site looking at all the things that you've done, and it's so inspiring. It's crazy.
And for everybody watching, you got to get on Comixology and make sure that you download the book. It's again, I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it right. Dweores.
Almost.
No.
Damn it.
Almost. Dweores.
Dweores.
There you go.
Dweores.
Dweores. Yes.
Dweores. Okay,
Yes.
Dweores.
And if
Once
you
I
want
get
to
that
see, a lot of other things that John has done, if you go to behance.com/John_Ottinger, and I'll have the link down in the summary. Oh man, I mean the stuff that you've done. I mean, when you look at how to make a scrat, and I didn't even know you could do it with foam. I mean, and it's amazing what you've done. So it's inspiring. I'm definitely
Chainsaw.
yeah.
Gotta be-
Yeah, as simple as that. Just grab a chainsaw.
Oh man, that's great, John. Thank you for coming on the show. We definitely gonna have to have you back, and we're definitely gonna have like a little session so just we can check out some of the stuff that you're working on.
Absolutely.
I would love to. I'm honored to be on your show. Thank you so much.
you.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you,
Thank
buddy.
you, John.
And I'm so glad I got to meet you guys.
Yeah,
Same
no,
here.
same here. And we're gonna have to do this in person someday.
Look,
Just get
next
together
year,
and just in
San
person.
Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah, I'm going to his booth.
Well, yes,
It's over.
we're all meeting up, and we'll go. What is
You
it?
guys can be my booth babes. I'm inviting you officially.
Oh, babes, I gotta shave. Hold on.
Yes.
So,
George is a little prettier. I'm just saying.
No, not at all. But I'll definitely be there. I'm taking you up on that.
okay, so let's start doing those push-ups.
There you
and,
go.
get
There you go.
ready.
There you go. Put those bonbons away.
Yeah. Thank you, John. Thank you so much for coming on, man. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.
you, buddy.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
got
you,
it.
buddy.
Sorry. Oopsies. But yes, that was John Ottinger, and he has such amazing stuff. We're just talking about it offline.
Incredible.
Just
dude.
magical, wonderful world that he's created, and it brought me back to my youth when and how I felt when I first saw the Dark Crystal, when I first saw watched the Muppets and Star Wars, and I think he nailed it with the design, and I mean every single thing is designed to perfection.
Yeah, I love that he took us on that journey from the moment and how it came into his mind, like what he was thinking. I need three things: emotional attachment, right? It has to be universal. And I couldn't remember the third one because I was looking through his pages. I was like, oh, holy God. But it is amazing that he was able to do that. And when he broke down the smiley face, like, I'm like, yo, he thought of it all. Like, he thought of it all.
It definitely pissed me off, though. He definitely pissed me off. So I'm like, oh man, I gotta work harder. I said, these are the kind of people that are out there. His talent is outrageous.
And this is the other thing that I'll say. No excuses, right? No excuses. This is a man who grew up, couldn't read until like the 9th grade. You know what I mean? And he pushed through all of that.
Yep.
Pushed through all of that. And he's created this little brand for himself. This brand that he's created. He's made it on TV. He had it on a hit TV show. I mean, The Big Bang Theory was no little show. It was a big show.
It's The Big
It
Bang
was a
Theory.
huge show. Exactly.
Who didn't watch that?
Exactly.
I still watch the reruns.
And there it is. And he was able to do it. I'm telling you, man, it was great, crazy. And I want to give a big shout out to Enrique Quique Lopez, Art by Quique on Instagram. He was the one that put me on to John. And he said, hey man, you guys have to have this guy on the show. So big shout out to him. Follow him on Instagram at art_by_Quique, QUIQUE. So that was great, man. Great.
That was fantastic. Pleasure to have you on the show, John. You're welcome back anytime. Independents out there, there's your playbook right there. When you put in the work, people will recognize it. When it comes from a pure place, it's the law of attraction, and people will recognize that, and they want to be part of that. And what he did was he lured people. His set design. And it wasn't a booth. Dude. It wasn't a table. It was a set. When you see what he did, I'm like, man, I just got a banner and the tablecloth.
and the other lesson to be learned in that story is that forget about perfection, right? He said, I got to get into this show. He pulled out his old, sketches, stapled them together, dog-eared, old meshed up. But the art was so impressive. They were like, yeah, we got to have this guy on the show.
But not only that. Because but I recognize that, but I guarantee you, his resume, when they see who he worked for and what he's done, they're like, oh, definitely this guy's gonna bring in people.
Yeah,
Because
no,
you
but
look at his portfolio,
but
because it's one of the things they ask is, what have you done?
yeah,
So
but
his
my point is, no, I got you. But my point is, for anybody who doesn't have that resume, forget about the fear of, oh, it's got to be perfect. I have to make sure it's perfect. No, make sure it's done. Make sure you have something to.
Well, yeah, that's how we got in, because we didn't have a resume. We were unknown knuckleheads.
That's what I'm saying.
And we just sent them a complete book, and they're like, all right, you're in.
Yeah, the resume is the icing on the cake, and I don't. He didn't tell that part of the story. We're assuming that like you said, they looked through your.
It's
stuff,
part of the application. Yeah.
Right, but the fact that he just said, here, man, boom, this is what I have.
Because when I read his resume, I was like, damn.
Insane.
It is like, he's been able to work on projects that we all fell in love with, characters that we all fell in love with, and so in a little way you're jealous, because like, man, I would have loved to have been part of that process. That's fantastic. Because the kid in me, it just brings out that giddiness again, and I'm like, wow. And so to see, number one, the humility that he has, and number two, the love that he has for the game, but it shows in every aspect of what he does.
Yeah,
crazy.
No, that's amazing, dude.
It's like, but that's that trigger, because it's almost as if every time I hit a rut, like like I was talking about today, was an administratively heavy day, the stuff that you don't like to do, right? And I'm like, and then yesterday I couldn't do anything because I had to transfer 800 gigs of files off of my computer because it slowed everything down. So I lost this. So those are frustrating for me. And then I see this, and I'm like, I gotta rethink. It's like, oh, I gotta rethink this approach, and I gotta go back and look at, because I started designing the cards for bidding characters. It's like, oh, I gotta rethink my designs. It's like, so it's like, it's inspiring because it motivates you to bring out your best. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? It's like, you play handball on your block in Queens, and I'm saying handball because I played handball, right? And you're killing everybody on your block. But then you go to West 4, New York, where all the pros play, and you're no longer that guy. So now you're competing with guys at a whole different level.
It makes you better, though.
Makes you better. Exactly. And then when I see someone like him, like John, I'm like, oh, I gotta go back to the drawing board.
It makes you better, and it's what he said something very important. Like, you can't get comfortable, because when you get comfortable, that's when you start losing it. So you have to make yourself uncomfortable. So that
how much they selling that character on eBay for?
Yeah, how much is that?
6 beans.
Nice.
Yes, signed.
Nice.
Yeah.
I hope he's getting some of that cash.
Yeah.
But dude, it's
6 frijoles.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Let's go to the shameless plug, though. Let's do that. Let's give somebody.
That's right.
Somebody love.
Who's being plugged today?
You've been plugged.
Tommy rode the border shore. Hallelujah. Go ahead. Why are you plugging Tommy?
Coates. So Tommy has a YouTube channel.
YouTube.
And it's called Tommy Coates. He's got over 1,000 subscribers, and he's got a couple of videos there that he did. He did a vlogumentary last year about the COVID scare that we had last year, and then he did a follow-up called The New Future.
Yeah.
So definitely check out his YouTube channel. He's a very, very talented filmmaker. I'm going to call him a filmmaker, because the way he cuts these videos is just something that is professional, and we are showing him some love because he has been there from day one, him and his dad. But Tommy Coates says, you've been plugged.
You've been plugged, sucker. And so this was another great episode of Cats the Craze podcast. Yes. This is a fun episode. And if you'd like to become a sponsor of Cats the Craze, and we'd love for you to sponsor our show, if you have a Kickstarter at Indiegogo, if you have a Comic-Con that you're going to be attending, if you got a new book that you're going to launch, what a better way than to promote it to the audience that you're trying to target. For a 30-second spot, as little as $5 up to $10. All depends on what show you want to promote it on, whether it's Cast the Craze, What's in the Box, or the Craze Nintendo Less. So the rates are right there. The link is below. Hit the link and sponsor Catch the Craze today and get the word out on your stuff.
That's right.
And don't forget to subscribe and share.
Like.
Share. Give us a thumbs up if you like this episode. If you have any questions for John, put them in the comments below.
That's right.
Don't forget to pledge to Forbidden. Today was the kickoff day. Make a pledge to Forbidden. Link is below on Kickstarter. Issue number 2, 27 pages of amazing story and art. With that said, thank you so much. We appreciate every single one of you. I'm Sam, the Crazy Man Vera.
George the Dreamer Medina.
And we are out.
It's just it's not.
Crazy.
Acquiesce.
No, I was talking about my friend Acquiesce. I met him the other.
Say my name,
Right?
This is what you were thinking? Oh,
He described me. He said, I'm the.
What? Catch the Craze. You're listening to Catch the Craze. You're listening to Catch the Craze. To Catch the Craze. You are listening to Catch the Craze on Catch the Craze. You're listening to Catch the Craze.
Candy girl.